Hi, folks. This is Lee W. Mowen, the host of the Cincinnati and Dayton Sports Podcast. I've been hosting my podcast on Anchor for some time now, and let me tell you why it's the easiest way to make a podcast. When you host with Anchor, you have creation tools that allow you to record and edit your podcast right from your computer or phone. Anchor then distributes your podcast for you so others can listen on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and many more platforms. You can even make some money with your podcast with no minimum listenership required. And best of all, it's 100% free. It truly is the one-stop shop for those looking to start a podcast. To start, download the free Anchor app or go to anchor.fm to get started. Anchor. It's episode 175 of the Cincinnati and Dayton Sports Podcast, and our special guest is Chris Vogt of the Butler County High School Sports Report. We're talking about the beginnings of the company, Chris's plans and involvement with the report, and of course local sports on this edition of the Cincinnati and Dayton Sports Podcast. Welcome to the Cincinnati and Dayton Sports Podcast with Lee W. Mowen. This is a weekly podcast covering all sports in Cincinnati and Dayton, Ohio. From Lima to the Ohio River and northern Kentucky, from eastern Indiana to Madison County and all points in between, this is your source of local Cincinnati and Dayton, Ohio sports. Visit the leewmowen.com/podcasts to find your favorite podcasting platform. Music created with the Splash app. Time for another episode with your host, Lee W. Mowen. And on the phone, we have Chris Vogt of the Butler County High School Sports Report. Chris, great to talk to you. Hope you're doing okay. How's everything?
Doing fantastically. I appreciate you inviting me on. I've enjoyed keeping up with your work, so it's a pleasure to join you.
Thank you very much for your time today, and it's always great to talk to people that help cover local sports in the area, and like the platform suggests, it's all Butler County, Ohio, US of A.
Right. Yeah, it is, Lee. It's one of those things where you don't want to stretch yourself too far. You don't want to stretch yourself too thin. So the opportunity was there for a platform to cover Butler County sports, and that's where we laid it at. So you don't want to say restrictions, but it was able to give us a keen eye on a focal point, and yeah, that's where we're at.
If people don't realize how big Butler County is itself, I mean, you got several big cities. You got Hamilton, you got Middletown, you got Fairfield, and you got several schools there in Butler County as well. Who all do you cover in Butler County?
Right. Lee, it's funny is that I actually had to explain to my wife. I'm like, do you know that Madison High School is in Butler County? She was like, Madison. I didn't even know Madison High School was a high school in Butler County. Well, it is. So there are 13 high schools in Butler County. Ranging from the Baden and Cincinnati Christian as being the non-public schools, and then you've also got the 5 GMC schools with Hamilton, Fairfield, Middletown, and the Lakotas, Lakota East and Lakota West, as well as the SWAC. You've got Ross, Edgewood, and Talawanda, and then you also have Miami Valley Conference's New Miami, and then they're joined by Cincinnati Christian as well. And then you're looking at the Southwestern Buckeye Leagues, Monroe and Madison. So we cover those 13 high schools on an intimate basis, the best we can, and then if we can put our hands on on anything regarding their schools, that we do the best we can to attack it. So yeah, those are the schools we cover, and then obviously the schools that our coverage area programs play, they'll get that coverage as well. So.
I mean, 13 schools. I mean, that's got to be a ton of athletes, a ton of sports to cover. You all stay busy in Butler County.
Right. Well, it's funny. You try and do as much as you can. You try and spread the wealth. You try and go where you feel as some of those athletes can benefit from the coverage. Our staff members aren't full time, so we kind of work around a lot of our staff members' schedules. Myself, I'm not a full time staffer for the report, but as me being the owner, I've got to play it like that. But no, we do the best we can to get out and cover what we can, and and you always hope that the schools appreciate what you do, and on our end as well, we always appreciate the schools allowing us to bring our staff members into their home and cover their programs and trust us with our work.
I mean, again, going back to the whole point of 13 schools, that's a lot of happy parents, a lot of happy fans, and, of course, a lot of happy athletes with the coverage. So, yeah, I definitely say, you guys are doing great work, and I'm a fan up here. I might not be located in Butler County, but I do follow some Butler County stuff along the way.
Oh, for sure, for sure.
So, Chris, let's begin. Where are you from?
Yeah, Lee, I'm born and raised Hamilton boy. I graduated from Baden in 2001. Graduated from Miami in 2005. I did leave the area for about a year to pursue some sports reporting gig in Western Illinois. It was a newspaper in Western Illinois that I applied for. I was young. This was about it's about 2009, and I ended up getting the position through 2 phone interviews and traveled out there with my soon-to-be wife, and we were expecting a child, didn't realize it, and came back. So we did have a short stint away from the area, but ultimately this area has been my mainstay. I know a lot about the athletes in this area, and a lot of the dedicated resources and coverage that I've hopefully been able to provide everybody. It stems from knowing high school sports in this area.
Understandable. I mean, for pretty much all your life, you've been in Butler County. You mentioned Baden right there. You mentioned Miami U. I mean, Butler County's been pretty much your home. Right,
it has, and I love it here too. It's I think when you look at high school sports in this area, you're just it runs in your veins to just want to be involved and just want to help the athletes and the kids. And I played baseball for Baden, so the competitiveness that I was able to get instilled with playing for Baden baseball, and Baden's mentality with baseball in this area is top notch. So the competitiveness sort of was just instilled in me, and I get that. I understand that a lot of these student athletes in this area, and Cincinnati is a fantastic area for growth for high school athletics for those kids to get to the next level. But yeah, I get it, and I understand it. I'm sure you do too. I mean, there's a lot of up north. There's a lot of programs up there that breed fantastic athletes and programs, and I always wanted to be a part of that. Like, even if I wasn't able to coach or play, I think graduating from Miami with a journalism degree, I was able to carry that competitive vibe and put that on paper, or put that on podcasts, or put that on a broadcast. And that's and that's where I'm at right now. I think being a part of what Butler County High School sports is all about has been a very rewarding thing on my end.
I will say I don't really know a lot of people that can say they went to high school and college in the same county. For yours truly, started off in Preble County at Twin Valley South, then made the move to Valley View, Montgomery County, and then there's Wright State and Greene County. So a
Right.
little Preble got Montgomery Greene for you right there. But I
There you go.
remember, I forget what season it was, a couple years back when Twin Valley South did upset Hamilton Baden in the baseball playoffs. I know that was a pretty big deal in West Alex, so definitely going back to Baden baseball, yeah, that's a huge
Oh
deal for
yeah.
the Rams.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah, for sure.
So let's ask the next question. How did you first get into sports?
I don't want to bore you too much, Lee, but when you said that question, I was, should I go back to the roots? Well, um, local sports has been in my blood for a long time. I was a freelance sports reporter for the Journal News and the Cincinnati Enquirer before moving away to accept that year contract, I guess I'll call it, over in Western Illinois at the Macomb Journal. And then, moved back. I had a, if you know the Hamilton area, there's a little community called Lindenwold,
Mm.
and I started the Lindenwold Ledger. It was back in 2006. This was before I ended up moving to Illinois, but I was able to still operate it while I was gone, mobily and on the web. But created a little news source for the community of Lindenwold that I would roughly say had 10,000 residents. It was fun. I enjoyed it. We covered just about anything. We covered city council. We covered community meetings, church, sports. But I felt that there was there's a little bit of a seclusion in terms of the coverage. I just felt like, well, I'm just going to cover Lindenwold stuff, and I just felt like that wasn't. It just wasn't. I guess folks weren't really, yeah, Lindenwold appreciates it, but I think there was just a calling for me to want to expand with my talents and my willingness to want to provide news content. And I was a sports guy. I won't lie. I know that sports kind of ran in the blood. So there was just a long talk, and I would say this probably should have been done a long time ago, but once we closed the Lindenwold Ledger down in 2016, so the Ledger ran for about 10 years. It was a print and online news source. But 2016 is when we closed the Lindenwold Ledger down, and I had a little bit of a break. And in between a couple of years there, had some close friends chatting with me about, look, the transition with local media and the coverage it's just not. I felt as though that some of that coverage was, I'll say, lacking in a sense in terms of the resources out there. There's resources out there that just weren't being used at a larger platform. And when I say that, it's internet radio, it's podcast, it's using social media outlets as your main tool to get your news out there, rather than clicking and reading. And I think that transition from maybe the early 2010s until now, you can tell a big difference. I mean, you know what I'm talking about, Lee. I mean, it's a huge difference in the way people are transcribing their news when they're reading it in the morning. And when somebody wakes up in the morning, it's not automatically run outside to the driveway to grab a newspaper anymore. It's wake up, grab your phone off the charger, and read Twitter and Facebook. So that was kind of the process in where I had my inspirations to want to provide an outlet for local coverage for media. And to kind of answer your question, the Butler County High School Sports Report was formed in 2018. Honestly, it was out of a whim. I would say it was three days before the first game and I think it was a week before the first high school football game, I sent an email to all the ADs saying, "Hey, we got an idea. Just wanted to run it by you guys." Had an overwhelming positive response to the presentation, to what our motive and what our goals were then, which are completely different now. But we just wanted to give a dedicated source for folks to come and listen to, or watch, or read Butler County High School sports, and that's sort of what kind of inspired my mindset for a centralized location for Butler County High School sports. I was able to put a kind of a cap on it. You know, you don't want to expand your horizons too far because you don't want to sell everybody short. You don't want to, and I think that's when I started the Lenoir Ledger. I felt like I couldn't go anywhere with it just because I was centrally located to a community, and I wasn't able to expand as much as I wanted to. But the calling for a 13 high school coverage website was right there, and I felt really comfortable with it. I felt comfortable with progressing with it, and now we're here. And the 13 high schools are the same schools we're covering, which is I'll take pride in that.
You mentioned a very interesting point about how we absorb news nowadays. It's no longer go out to the driveway, here's your newspaper if you subscribe to it. Nowadays, it's all on social media, and it's right at the palm of your hand. And that's something that has always intrigued me in a sense, just because we get everything in the palm of our hand, and it used to be
right.
You'd have to wait a little bit, or maybe listen to the radio. But now with social media, bam, it's all right there for you.
Right. Yeah, Lee. Yeah, it's one of those things too. Is you got to find a way to intrigue your audience, and print on paper isn't doing it anymore. I'll be just flat out honest. Like, it's not doing it anymore. Yeah, it may tickle the older generation's fancy with a nostalgic wake up in the morning, grab your coffee, but you can literally do the exact same thing when you wake up with your phone, grab your coffee, get your news then. But honestly, if you're up on a Friday night at 9:30 p.m., you already know what the score is. So people want stuff now. They want interviews. They want digital, intriguing stats. They want just pictures. They want stuff that they can take in, quite honestly, without any effort in reading anything. It's not fun to say that, because I've got 1,000 clips downstairs from when I was writing for local news sources in the past, and I love just going back and getting the feel of the newspaper and reading some of that stuff. And now it's finding it all online. But I think that's where we're at right now, Lee. And it's just the nature of where we're at right now.
Another nice point you brought up too is getting your football scores, because social media, if you know who to look for or where to look, you can find those scores. Whereas back in the day with no social media, you went to the game, that score, but the other ones, you probably have to, I don't know which TV
maybe
stations.
Listen to the radio.
Yeah, on radio. Radio's a good point. I'm not sure if you all get Cincinnati TV stations more than Dayton, but up here we had Touchdown 7, Operation 2. You get your scores that way, and whatever 2245 had. And Cincinnati, I know the TV stations definitely would show scores, but yeah, again, with this idea with the Butler County High School Sports Report, it's easier to push information, and people that are fans of these schools know where to look, and bam, right there.
Right. Well, and there are companies like ScoreStream out there that puts the control in the fans' hands or the coaches' hands. Like, people are updating scores of these games that they're attending. I would say there's a percentage of it that somebody may upload a score wrong. But I'll be quite honest with you. Some of these scores that are coming in, you can legitimately find a score right away because somebody's uploading it to a score stream or a website that does integrate updating scores. But yeah, you're right. It's one of those things where if you have a foundation to find scores and you go to it. I like to consider our website as being a source for finding scores or our social media websites to be someplace where you'd be able to find updates and results. One of the new things that I believe we're going to do here coming up for high school football is, automatically, once those Butler County scores are in, boom, all those scores are going up on an image and we're putting it on social media. You'll be able to find it within minutes of the final game, that last game finishing up. We find out that score, boom, that's going to be blasted on social media at 10 p.m. That way everybody knows the score. But no, those are the things that we're approaching. Scores fast, scores often. I don't want to stray away from the writing part because I love it. I enjoy writing, but you got to go with what people want.
You mentioned ScoreStream. I love that app. It's pretty much last year when I was broadcasting for the Loveland Tigers on ESP Media, I would be, the one to update it. And then there's a sense of power, like, haha, I'm updating the scores.
Yep.
The only time that someone beat me to the punch was at Turpin, and I think it was one of the Spartans fans, just like, I just said a touchdown on the microphone, and I can't even update it because someone already did that. Right. And I think I tried to, and it added an extra touchdown. I was like, God.
What's funny is that when we're doing our radio broadcast, I have my color commentator on ScoreStream updating as we go when we go to a commercial, and then I'm the one updating our website and our social media during commercials. So we hope to nail both spectrums during commercials just so that we at least get things updated and once we have an opportunity to get that updated, because honestly you want to be tied into the game rather than on your phone updating everything. So but yeah, no, you're right. Yeah, people are quick draw McGraw on that stuff, and you hope they're doing it right, but at the same time, credibility is a huge thing right now too. I think when you're out covering these contests, you want to make sure that you're doing it correctly. You want to make sure you're doing it professionally. You still can't stray away from that. I know that media's moving away in a different direction, but you still got to work your social media outlets to a professional basis. You can't you can't be losing your credibility because you're posting nonsense or you're posting things that aren't really moralistically valued or incorrect. So, but no, yeah, that's where we're at.
So tell me, what was some of the processes used to create the Butler County High School Sports Report?
Processes as in having a couple of drinks with friends and collecting ideas, or
hey, I mean, whatever, however the platform was born. I mean, give me the blueprints.
Here, Lee, the crazy thing is when everybody has an inspiration to want to create something, you'll never have a plan without having a dream, and you'll never have a dream without making sure that you have ideas. And if you don't have those implemented, you'll never be able to do anything like that. So the idea clicked when I initially saw that there was a need and there was sort of a lack in terms of a centralized focus for local media. And a lot of larger media scales were going regional and more so national, and kind of leaving a lot of the smaller schools in the dust. And I'll be just quite frank with you on this. The smaller schools were getting the jip on some of this coverage that was, starting to shift focus within the last, I'd say, maybe 10 years. I'll go out as far as saying 10 years. But more so within the last 5 years, if one team isn't doing well, they're not going to get the coverage at all. Well, guess what? There might be a team that's not doing well, but there's that one person that deserves to have the coverage because that person may be getting to the next level if that person gets the coverage. So one of our focuses for the report is to let's seek that out. Like let's find that. And when I say smaller schools, I mean it, smaller schools. I mean your New Miamis. I mean your Cincinnati Christians. I mean your Monroe is partially, Division One on a couple aspects, but your Madisons, and we want that. Like we want to make sure that those schools are getting the coverage that they deserve. And the platform started with that, and then obviously the name says Butler County, so we're going to go hit up those other larger GMC schools and in your SWAC schools along with Baden. We wanted to do that. We wanted to include all of them. You got to stick with your motives and your focus, and that's sort of one of our proud factors is the fact that we've been covering 13 schools for the last 3 years.
And the thing I like about Butler County schools and just Butler County's sports is the fact that you mentioned it yourself. I mean, you have these smaller schools like, your New Miami Vikings who, last year went 10-0 in the regular season. I mean, that's impressive. And then you have your big schools like Fairfield to the south, and they almost knocked Coleraine off that GMC crown. It would have been the first time in, a very long time. A very, very long time.
More than a decade. More than a decade.
I mean, it's interesting to see, how much, you can get out of small schools, of big schools, and even the ones in between. It's something I admire. I mean, it's not an easy thing to, because again, you mentioned 13 schools, and well, that's a lot of area to cover. But at the same time, that's you're giving the athletes that might not originally get those chances an opportunity to shine.
Right, and I think all these schools know that hey, we can't cover everything. You know what I mean? Like you can't cover every single athletic event. It's fine. Another reason why I think the Butler County High School Sports Report, has a little bit of, just a form of credibility to it is the fact that we hope to put together some feature video aspects of it all. The feature video aspect is huge right now too. Maybe doing your hard knocks, diving into certain things. Now, right now, it's been kind of rough, just the mere fact that you've got social distancing and you've got, certain protocols from schools. But just miking up a coach, mic up a coach, and stuff like that is so cool. Get the coaching aspect from a coach in there. Just miking up a player during practice. Get some of that heart and that tenacity and record that and show everybody that look, these kids mean business and they work hard and they deserve as much of the publicity as possible in a unique way rather than your traditional news outlet.
I'm going to skip a couple questions on the outline. How has the coronavirus affected you, everyone with the report, and being able to get ready for football and fall sports?
From our standpoint, well, me personally, thankfully it hasn't affected me or any of my family members and those associated with the report. But at this point, for something like this to happen, nobody plans for it. You know what I mean, Lee? Like you don't plan for a pandemic. You just hope to react, and you hope to make sure that whatever you have planned for the future will work. And for the reports, I don't think it's going to hurt us that the coronavirus has kind of halted coverage and halted high school sports for us at the moment. We're hoping that we're going to see a fall sports season, but you just continue to try and think of innovative ways to provide content for your audience and for your readers and for your viewers. As long as you're innovative in what you try to pursue, there should really be nothing that should stop you from creating content from a news standpoint. Everybody else is doing it, you know what I mean? So find the story, find the story that will make an impact even during this time. There's a lot of coaches that want to talk about their players even though they may not see the field. So these players deserve coverage even if it's a stalemate, you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. And the reason why I skipped to the coronavirus question, just because I believe it was last week, and I saw that you all got to go to the area high schools, such as Middletown and at Barnett Stadium, which I love that stadium.
Right.
But to see the Midi, see the Big Blue, and I know you guys covered a couple more during that week, but it was nice to see. So,
what is great about these coaches are doing everything they can. Like, I just got to compliment everybody that we've came in contact and we've covered for the last 2-3 months. Like, these schools are doing everything that they can to make sure that these kids are going to see the field and see the court and compliment to every program. It's just, it's a big deal. And these programs are taking this as a big deal. And I can't stress enough to what I've seen. These schools aren't taking this as a joke. And I hope that people understand that. Because everybody wants to see their kid play at the next level or play, on Friday night. Everybody wants to see that. Mom and Dad want to see that. Grandma and Grandpa want to see that. I want to see that. You want to see that, Lee?
Oh, tell me about it.
Right. This is, some of this is our livelihood that it's affecting. So we want to see these players play and these coaches coach and these administrators do their thing. But I got to first and foremost commend that Butler County, these schools are doing what they can to make sure that these kids will see the field.
Now, I believe I saw that Middletown said that they're putting on hold fall sports. Now, how does that affect you all?
Well, honestly, if they're going to put a hold on their sports, unfortunately, we're going to stay away from them. Like we're not gonna, it's almost like one of those things where just give them time. You know what I mean? Like we're not one of those companies that's just gonna, start storming into the scheme of things and figure out what the heck's going on. Like that's just not us. Like we don't play that way. We're not that type of media outlet. I always like to get the content from the source, and that's the ADs and the administrators and the superintendents. I won't ask, you know what I mean? I'm not going to ask, why are you guys doing this? Like, I get it. Like, it's a pandemic. It's fine. We're not trying to, stir some things up. So once they know that they can pull the trigger to get everybody back out there, that's our go to get back out there too.
I just know Middletown's a big city, and that's a lot of students, and they're already deciding that they're going to online classes. I forget which time frame Middletown's at, but they're going to start the year online. But it's a tough time because, of course, we all want sports. All of us that are sports fans are sports workers. Who doesn't? But at the same time, this virus is it's something else. We really haven't seen it since the Spanish flu about a century ago.
A century ago, right? Yeah. Well, and Lee, I've been in conversations with those who say, look, we're looking at this the wrong way. We need to make sure that everybody is taken care of and healthy. And like nobody wants anybody to die. But then you also have to look at the standpoint of, you've got youth that not just can be affected mentally, just the mere fact that, you know, they may not see their kids, their friends for so long. I'm dealing with this from my daughter's standpoint. She's 10, and she wants to see her friends, and she, you know, you want to make sure everybody's doing the right thing as well. Yeah, but at the same time, it's okay to be selfish. You don't have to be condemned to be selfish about wanting your kid to play high school sports. It's okay. We get it. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
But at the same time, I'm one to look at it from the other spectrum as well. You know, you want to make sure that what you're told from the higher ups and from, you know, the state, that look, once we get to go, we're going hardcore, and I'm hoping that we get that. I'm hoping we get that word from the governor here soon.
Now, here's my curveball outside the outline. You know, who doesn't like inside jokes that we talked about before starting recording? But this is from Cincinnati.com and the Inquirer. DeWine mentioned that the Ohio Department of Health testing protocols weren't met for prep sports. Now, that's pretty huge, just because of the fact that, you know, you don't have to test everyone within that 72-hour frame multiple times a week. So that's definitely a nice lift off the shoulders if, you know, you're worried about footing the cost of that. But at the same time, I mean, for you, when I said the title, what did that make you think about us possibly having a fall season? Does it make you more optimistic, or what's your thoughts?
You know, gosh, Lee, and I'm probably, you know, I've got to have an addictive personality, and I have a selfish personality sometimes. I want to have high school sports. Yes, I do. I want to have it. You know, from the standpoint, from a moralistic value, and from a mindset that, look, you know, this is a pandemic. I get it. Yes. But the only thing that we could do right now is to make sure that we're following protocols. And if everybody's following protocols since what, March? Okay, April. Mm-hmm. All right. How long was that? 6 months ago?
It feels like 12 years ago, but yes.
It does, doesn't it? Yeah, 5 months ago. So everybody, you know, okay, maybe not everybody, but those who want to make sure that they're going to make an impact on the situation at hand, I know that everybody's doing the things that they need to do to make sure that we're going to see a high school sports season. I think I'm 75% sure that we're going to have a high school sports season. I may even raise it to 80%. The other 20% is just hearing all these schools drop out. That's what's making me think that we may not see. It's just going to be a cluster of just issues with scheduling and all that jazz. But I think 80% we're going to see a high school sports season in the fall. Now the problem is going to be winter when everybody's inside. That's just going to be, and that's just my mindset.
You know, that's a good thought that I never thought about, just because, with winter sports, you're all inside, and I've been more worried about fall sports before getting to winter sports and hockey. But I mean, there's some of the fears that I keep seeing, just because there's certain schools that are dropping out, like from the area. Trotwood, Madison said no fall sports.
Trotwood did,
Man, and that cancels out the Trotwood versus Winton Woods game, which I know not quite Butler County, but it's really close. But
no, that's a huge game. That's a big time game right there, and that's week 1, right?
Yeah, it was going to be week 1 for the Rams and the Warriors. I know
that right there is one of the best games in the state, right there.
Oh yeah, I mean, definitely Southwest Ohio, but at the same time, I mean. Yeah, and now that's not happening. I mean, it's sad, but at the same time, you know, Trotwood's worried about their kids, so I commend them for that.
Absolutely.
The Greater Western Ohio Conference, which doesn't reach to Butler County. I keep thinking that, yeah, it does, but nope. Springboro and Lebanon.
No, it doesn't.
See, that Butler-Warren County line, and then there's Butler-Hamilton. Sorry, that's not important. But, Lebanon's now looking for 2 opponents just because they can't play their former GWalk foes in Springboro and Miamisburg. I know Oak Hills and Roger Bacon, they had to they scheduled a game just because their previous games or their original games were from foes in Kentucky, and the Kentucky High School athletic, Simon Kenton and Covington Catholic, and the Kentucky High School Athletic Association mentioned that you can't play anyone out of state unless it borders, Kentucky, which I think Roger Bacon would have been fine, and Oak Hills too, but at the same time, better safe than sorry, I suppose. It's going to be the most chaotic fall sports season, especially since it starts later on in the month.
Well, I was expecting a major announcement today from the state, but we got hung out to dry.
Yeah,
I don't know if you were following that.
Yeah, I was trying to. I've been, following to make sure that, hey, I have a gig this fall because, one of my collegiate gigs is postponed to spring, and the other one at Wright State, I'm putting money on it that they're going to postpone fall sports to spring too. But
Lee, we haven't even announced our fall schedule yet, just because I don't know where we're going to be.
Yeah, it's tough just because you don't know if your conference is the next one to say, okay, conference only, no non-conference games.
Right.
For the Southwest Ohio Conference, that's brutal just because of the fact that there's only 5 other members, if you're one of the 6.
And Lee, check this out. The OHSAA just said that they're going to leave it to schools to allow them to contact local media companies that, hey, if you guys wanted to partner up to broadcast live events on Friday night in terms of a paywall revenue, that's huge for some of these media companies to able to help out these schools, so it's a huge announcement that was made earlier today.
I saw that, and I shared it on my Facebook profile. Yes, that is huge. I think it's bigger for video compared to audio, just because, there's a lot of audio sources for games, which, radio is my heart. So that's
right.
Yeah, that makes me happy. But, for TV and internet video, that's huge, just because that wasn't a thing that you could do. And now, hey, you can watch it, you can watch it live, and, you don't have to worry about tape delay. But I saw that too. One of my friends mentioned something pretty smart about it. Just, will that be the end of local radio coverage? And I certainly hope not, just because, if you give most people the choice of audio, video, most of them are going to say video just because they want to see it. I'm the odd duck out. I'd say audio every time, just because there's something about a radio call that just warms my heart, and it's more enjoyable to follow that way. But at the same time, I don't know if that's correct or not, but that's what I saw.
Well,
and it's like,
here's the thing, Lee, is I think they ended up making that just a year regulation, though, so they'll have to revisit that for next year.
That's smart, but
right.
If they do it this year, are they going to complain that, well, we should do it again next year or something like that?
Right. If it ends up generating a lot of revenue for these schools, if you've got a good connection to some third-party media company that will help them out, who knows? I would rather watch a game live, to be honest with you. If it's high school, it's local, it's helping at the school, it's, you can go get a hot dog there, but at the same time, the market for this it's going to be changing. It'll change if it stays like this. So, but I don't know. It's going to be an interesting call for these next 9 months.
Absolutely. It's going to be an interesting time, and I hope everyone stays safe and avoids the coronavirus. And yeah, hopefully
Right.
us broadcasters and sports writers and everyone can, get back to work.
Right. Yeah. I was on I was kind of keeping an eye on the Lakota West Athletic Boosters meeting that was live streamed, and one of my questions to Scott Kaufman was, "Hey, what are the protocols for media covering your programs?" And it's going to be limited. I know that media is going to be limited in the press box because you can't fit everybody shoulder to shoulder anymore. You can't play that game anymore. And I know that there's plenty of people who want to provide coverage for these programs that rightfully deserve it, which affects us. We may not be able to get into games that we would typically have gotten into last year, but hopefully, with us being a contrite, focused media company for our Butler County schools, hopefully that wouldn't be an issue. I'll stand out in the rain. I don't care. As long as you give us an opportunity to be at your game and provide your coverage and support your school, then we'll do whatever we can.
Yeah, same for me too. I'd be fine with that as well, just as long as I get to get back to broadcasting. That's my big thing.
Yep.
I'd like to swing this topic back over to something not coronavirus-y and something a little bit more positive. Who all helps out with the Butler County High School Sports Report?
Yeah. Well, it started out more of just a conversation with family and friends, and I got a couple of my brothers involved, a couple of my immediate friends involved, and those who helped out the Winnemall Ledger when I ran that stepped up and said, "Hey, we're up to covering some games." So a mixture of a little bit of everything. It's family oriented. We got some friends involved. We also have some freelance sports reporters involved, some freelance photographers, and it's a mixture of everything. We're not typically we're not really focused on a certain resume of sorts for those who want to be involved, because guess what? If you want to be involved and help out and provide content or provide anything that will help out coverage for a school in our area, you're our guy. You know what I mean? Like we're not gonna sit there and you give us an 8-page resume. Like we're not like that.
8-page resume. My Lord.
right. I don't even have a 2, but anyway, yeah, you got the gist there. But yeah, we're not ESPN. We're Butler County High School Sports Report. So we're always looking for somebody, if they, hey, if anybody from the school affiliated, school newspapers wanted to help out, like that's awesome. I like to hear these stories. We had a couple kids from Madison, a kid from Baden just reach out to say, "Look, I would like to write a couple stories for you guys," and that's an automatic resume builder. You know what I mean, Lee? Like that's you write one story. I don't care if it was good or not. You were able to help out. You were able to, show some professionalism in what you were trying to pursue. That to me means a lot, and that's what we're about.
And I know that also helps out the young folks that want to get into broadcasting or journalism, just because it's something I wish I had when I was in high school, but the internet really wasn't social media heavy until about college, but that's not the point. I mean, you can give valuable experience, and there's a demo right there. Boof.
Right.
Now, what are some of the sports that you get to cover? You mentioned the schools in Butler County, but what sports are covered?
Yeah, we try to cover anything from golf to just basically anything we can put our hands on. There's really not a restriction on what we cover. Obviously the intriguing part of covering high school sports is, obviously your main three, which would be basketball, baseball, and football. But coming from a hockey guy like you, though, right?
How did you guess?
Yeah, right. No, parents and coaches and players, like, they appreciate the fact that we would want to cover golf and we would want to cover cross country and hockey and lacrosse. And me being a full-time employee at the post office, if I get off work at 5:00 and there's a lacrosse game at 5:30, down the street at Fairfield, I'll run by and take some photos and talk to a coach afterwards. And that's that. Like, I want to do that. Like, we're not restricted to our coverage, but we do understand where the eyes are, though. Like, we understand where that source of interest is. And I'm sure you could attest to that, Lee. I mean, I know that not all Butler County high schools have hockey. I know Talawanda is the mainstay, but
that's it.
Right, it is only it.
Mm-hmm.
But there is a mainstay for certain eyes to be focused on certain sports. But
Mm-hmm.
that's not gonna toss anything aside that will prevent us from wanting to cover any other sport as well. So
the big thing is, I mean, like you mentioned, there's only so many helpers that you have, and basketball's big, football's big, baseball's big, and I mean, there's only so infinite or so much finite amount of time that it's hard to cover everything, and I understand that.
Right. Well, and you can choose and be. One cool thing about this, and I enjoy it, is you pick and choose your battles. One thing, the main thing on my end is schedule. Like, I've got to make sure that I'm balancing family life and what's going on with me professionally too. So, with ad revenue coming in from certain ad sources, I'll be able to send out coverage area guys to hit up certain games when we're not doing Friday Night Lights and stuff like that. But there's a ways to make sure that you're you're crossing your T's and dotting your I's in terms of coverage.
Now, are there any teams that you really want to cover? I mean, I know I mentioned Talawanda's got the only hockey team in town or in the county, and they got Miami U to call home. Beautiful Goggin Ice Arena. Why can't we have anything of that in Dayton? Never mind. But Monroe's got not only a tremendous girls soccer team, but a strong boys soccer team, and that was a lot of fun seeing them last year. I mean, is there any teams that you really, really want to go see?
Lee, just from knowledge of our conversation, within this last hour, I'm a small school guy. I enjoy getting the small school coverage out there, and you've got Cincinnati Christian as a small basketball school. They're really good. You've got New Miami, who's got a fantastic football team at this moment. Those are the stories that I love. I won't lie. I love covering the small schools that have a resilient story, just a perseverance to them, and that's me. And then, that's where the Butler County High School Sports. That's where the Butler County High School Sports Report is right now. We're hoping to get that small school to coverage.
Now, are there any future goals or future plans you have to take Butler County High School Sports Report up to an even higher level?
Yeah, we do. I'm a stay in my lane kind of guy. Just for the mere fact that this isn't my full-time gig. So the transition on some of this may be a little bit, slower than I would want. But as long as I'm making sure that we're providing the same amount of content that we've been providing for the last 3 years, I feel as though there's only room for improving. Technology is improving. Your resources are improving. It's just as long as you're taking advantage of that, things can only get better. The relationships that you gain with working with these schools, just keep them. You make sure that you're enhancing relationships with coaches and players and administrators, and things will always look up in terms of coverage in this area. So that's where we're at right now. If we stay in our lane and make sure that we're getting the proper amount of coverage where it needs to be, I think things will be beneficial for high school in this area.
Now, I previously asked about what teams or sports you'd like to cover, but of everything you've done for, Butler County High School Sports Report, tell me some of your favorite athletes or favorite moments or favorite rivalries that you got to witness. I know there's a lot, and I'm pretty sure you get the question, hey, who do you think's going to win against Baden versus Ross? Is it the Rams or is it the Rams?
That's funny. Well, no, I got two instances that I can chime in on this. Back when I was covering sports for the Enquirer, North College Hill was primarily an Enquirer coverage team. Mm-hmm. That was when O.J. Mayo and Bill Walker were basically Cincinnati at that point. I was able to cover O.J. Mayo on an intimate basis when they ended up going to regionals and states, and that was really, really cool. Like, to watch somebody like that play, it was just, it was a real deal. Like, you were covering, you knew you were covering somebody that was in their prime, and they were ready to go to the next level, and it was really neat to experience that. From that perspective, but and I'm going to go recent in terms of a game that the report covered. I was I think I was the only media man there in 2018 when Ross beat Edgewood. Ross wasn't expected to beat Edgewood. Was it 3 years ago? And that was really cool to experience. It was primarily an upset, just the mere fact that Edgewood was. They were a 9-1 team. They were a 10-0 team at SWAC at the time, and Ross took them down, and it was really neat to kind of dive into that whole experience. But yeah, the something that was relatively newer in the mind, that stood out the most for me.
Now, a question I get to ask some of my guests is about the big conference changes that are occurring in the area. I think the biggest one is the Southwestern Buckeye Leagues losing a couple teams, Preble Shawnee and Dixie, to go over to a lot of the cross-county conference schools to make the WOAC, the Western Ohio Athletic Conference. Just rolls right off the tongue. But,
right.
I mean,
it will in a couple of years probably, but...
Yeah, I mean, with all the conference changes and, now the SWAC is down to 6 teams because Little Miami's back in with some of the Fort Ancient Valley Conference teams and the ECC. I mean...
Right.
How does conference changes affect you, and what can you see happening in the future for those 13 schools in Butler County?
If a school doesn't switch Butler County boundaries, it's not going to change at all.
Fair enough. Fair enough.
So, it was crazy, and I'm going to bring this up. Fenwick was once a Butler County school.
Yeah, that's right. It used to be,
but they rebuilt.
Oh,
it was in Middletown. So their new school was actually, it was built in Franklin. So, that sort of, and I was like, look, I got to stay true to our motive when we cover Fenwick because they play other programs in the area. We do. But we're not primarily going to focus on them on an intimate basis like we would, say, Middletown or Madison, which are in the Butler County boundaries. But that was kind of a tricky call there. And I know Middletown Madison, Middletown Christian, they are in the same boat. They are just past the 75 boundary from where it actually is bordered with Butler County. So
that's right.
One of those, yeah. So we had to draw the line. I felt like if drawing the line there would, eliminate any coverage issues. Just the mere fact that if you're going to be playing some of our programs within the boundaries, then you'll get that coverage too. But yeah, it's, it could be expanded, yeah, but, at the moment, I think the comfortable factor is just continue to cover the 13 schools, see where we go in the future, and see where we lie.
You kind of stole my thunder. I was going to ask, is there ever a thought in your mind saying, hey, I'm going to make this the Butler and Warren County high school sports reports just because there is such an interlap between Butler and Warren County?
Right. Well, Lee, if I wasn't primarily focused on what I do at the post office at the moment, being a mail carrier, it really does put a stamp on what we try to do for the Butler County High School Sports Report, because I think where we're at right now, it's a comfortable mindset, it's a comfortable feeling, and I'm going to continue to go with that at the moment. You don't want to sell anybody short. My thing is don't commit to things that you don't 100% agree on, and that's me.
And it makes sense too. I mean, you got your full-time job, and 13 schools is a lot to cover in the first place, and Warren County has a lot more. I mean,
right.
But I don't know the exact amount, but I know there's a lot too. But yeah, I get that. It's just something that just because Butler and Warren are kind of intertwined like that, I figure I throw out that question.
Right. It's kind of interesting that the Hamilton County, nobody's made a Hamilton County one. If you want to cover 50 schools, go ahead.
I mean, that's a lot. You got the CMAC, you got Winton Woods,
right.
You got Coleraine. I mean, just Winton Woods and Coleraine, if you cover football, good luck. You're going to be busy. But at the same time, yeah, I mean, there's a lot of schools. So now if anyone wants to start something up, I know Preble County, my home county, there's only 5 high schools, or 6 if you want to dive into Union County, Indiana. But, there's that. Chris, you've been a lifelong Butler Countyan. What's some of your favorite things about the local sports scene?
You know what, Lee? The fact that I think the kids of Butler County are fantastic. I think I just love covering them. There really isn't more else to say about them. I'm just being a homer and understanding that, some of these programs are where they're at because of just good people involved. That's really all I can say about that. Just the mere fact that a lot of these programs are, they have people who invest, not just time, but just a mental aspect to it, just to make sure that some of these kids are getting what they deserve at the high school level.
Now, what would you like to see in the future for sports and media in Cincinnati, Dayton, Ohio, and the Butler County area?
Yeah, I think we're almost there, honestly. I mean, quite frankly, I don't have an answer for that, just because things change almost yearly. Honestly, I mean, things change so fast that I just, that was one of the questions I saw you threw at me. I just don't know. like you just got to roll with the punches. And I'd imagine that I'd consider myself a guy that just I enjoy change. I'm not one that digresses with change. I like it. And I'm sure a lot of these schools expect change, and we'll change with them. So we'll continue to enjoy some tribulations and trials at the same time. Just hope to progress in the future.
Now, for those that want to become a sports writer or a broadcaster or do something like what you got with the Butler County High School Sports Report, what advice can you share?
Just if you got a passion for something, I'll be first and foremost. I'm surprised I didn't say the passion word earlier in the segment, but if you got a passion for something, you'll know it, you'll understand it. And my biggest thing is just don't stop. Don't stop doing what you feel is a good thing. If you feel that you've got something good cooking up in the mind, just try and pursue it. Ask questions. There's way too many resources out there for you to not pursue something that you feel passionate about. You know what I mean, Lee? Like you found a passion for something, and I'm sure you asked questions. I'm sure you had to find those trials and tribulations to make sure you get where you're at. But if you feel like you've got a passion for something to get to where you want to get to, there's nothing really stopping anybody. There's resources out there that are cheap. When I say cheap, I'm talking like, if you want to start a podcast, you can find yourself a $30 USB mic. You can find yourself a $50 USB switchboard. You can find yourself a $200 laptop that will do all this. But the key thing is just don't stop. Ask questions. There's a lot of people out there that in the same boat as somebody else coming up.
For those that might want to help out with Butler County High School Sports Report, or just want to follow you and the report on social media, where do they go?
Yeah, we appreciate that. You can follow us on Twitter at bchssreport.com, or pardon me, bchssreport, or you can log on to the website at bchssreport.com. You can follow us on, you can like us on Facebook by searching Butler County HS Sports Reports. Drop us an email, info@bchssreports.com, and I always got the email open. So if anybody has any issues or questions or wants to know something or why we're not doing something that they want, I usually have an answer. So we're always open to help out those who want to get to the next level.
Chris, you got a fan up here in Dayton, Ohio, and I like what you all do, and keep up the great work, okay?
Well, Lee, I always appreciate what you guys post, and I'm telling you what, we'll definitely be in touch in the future, and maybe we can collaborate on some things.
That sounds like a plan. And before I play the closing theme, the big thing that I didn't even dive into, Butler County High School Sports Report, it's not just about high schools. You do dive in a little bit on college. I saw there was a Miami Middletown article on there, and I remember broadcasting season and a half there. That's a great gym. That's great people. So definitely that put a smile on my face.
That's a whole nother topic, but we're looking to possibly dive into the Butler County College Sports Report, which is the first announcement I've made. So there it is. We'll see where that goes here soon.
I knew I'd get spoilers out of you sometime. But Chris Vogt, thank you for your time today, and that wraps up episode 175 of the Cincinnati and Dayton Sports Podcast. Talk to you again for episode 176. Thank you for listening to another episode of the Cincinnati and Dayton Sports Podcast with Lee W. Mowen. To subscribe to this podcast, please visit
theleewmowen.com, spelled THELEEWMOWEN.com, then click on Podcast. From there, you can find your favorite way to catch new episodes of this podcast, such as on Apple Podcast, Google Podcast, Spotify, TuneIn, the iHeartRadio app, Pandora, and many more platforms. Follow along on social media by liking the Facebook page, the Cincinnati and Dayton Sports Podcast, and follow along on Twitter at CinDayPod and the Lee W. Mowen. Feel free to send in future questions for Mowen's Mailbag on Twitter or Facebook. The closing theme was created with the Splash app, available for free on Google Play and the App Store. This is Lee W. Mowen signing off. Let's talk local Cincinnati and Dayton sports again on the next episode.